So welcome to Bunny's Designs. This is a live stream recorded for Ustream.tv and also for YouTube for people to watch at their leisure. I'm working in my Colin Thompson colour book and I wanted a page that was easy today. Sometimes if you're not well or you're tired, you really kind of want to just colour, and although these look really complicated, you just pick off simple little colours. So it actually works out to be really easy to do. And I find smaller spaces a kind of a gentler way to work, and I want to work in a very, very simple way. So I've got my Neocolor 2s in squares, and I think I've got just about 100. So I've got some flesh tones and some olives. I've got some cold greys and some dark greys. I've got my cold yellows and my warm yellows and oranges. And there's a piece of plastic between, but I made the book so that I can see all my reds. So I've got my orangey reds and my brick reds, and then I've got my pinky reds, my purpley reds. And then I've got my pinks and my purples. I've got pale blues and teals. Then I've got my unusual pale and jade coloured greens. Then I've got my darker greens, and then I've got my turquoises. I've got my purpley blues, and I've got my cold blues. I've got my I've got my cold browns, and then I've got my warm browns. And there's sometimes a difference. If you want a shadow in a brown, you want to look, where is it going to be warm or is it cold? I've got the olives from light to dark. And then I bought some Neo art bars in a set, a full set of 60, which you can't buy anymore, but sometimes you can be lucky and get them either second hand or in an old art shop you may find some. And I found this set in an art shop in London, in the suburbs of London. And it had different colours in, so it had a burnt umber, had a dark carmine, middle cobalt blue, a couple of turquoises, and then it had a silver and a gold, and the manganese violet I don't think they make anymore, flesh colour, and ultramarine pale. Ultramarine pink, which again is an unusual colour. So these are kind of fixed on the end, and I bought them after I'd bought the Neos. I wouldn't have bought all the Neos if I'd have had this set, but the gold and the silver are in the Neo art bars, and I think they're in the Neo colours as well, but I know they're in the Neo art bars. And I used quite a lot of them the other day when I did a page. And this particular square is a square of the silver with a square of the gold over the top. And what it's done, it's given me kind of a dull gold or a warm silver, depending on what you use. And it looks like it's half used, which it is, but it did almost a full colour page. If I can find it. So having this, you don't always have to have your crayons with you to do a full page of greys and silvers. So all the metalwork in his armour is silver and gold. And so I did get quite a lot of colour on there, and there's a little bit shiny. But I just wanted that metal kind of dull metal effect. And so I used those three colours with the flesh. And again, you can see how much of the flesh I've used. There's quite a bit there. And I've used the strip. So they do go a long way, even when you've only got them on a paper palette. So I'm going to be working out of these colours here, and I've chosen, I will zoom in a second, I've chosen some quite small brushes because it's a small space. So I've got the Art Master Pearl Series 55. I've got a number, a 0, a 0, a 50, and a 20. And then I've got my trusty 10-0 liner, which is a real Diddy paintbrush. And normally if you dunk them in water, they'll behave themselves and sit how you want them. I'm using quite a nice little face cream pot, which actually has an inkwell feel. And then I've got my fresh clean baby wipe in the lid. So again, you know, if you wanted to take that with you, you'd have your water. So I'm working in the Colin Thompson Fantastic Colour Book, and I'm working in my little book of colours, but I'm just using my, I think there's 102, or there might be 100, and there's 12 extra in there, so there's just over 100 colours, which works out to be about an inch. And I've made big squares this time because I want it to last, so I can go away and leave the crayons at home if I need to. So I'll zoom in, and I've decided that all these little kind of windows that I want light, I've tidied on golden yellow number 20. It may be a different colour in the crayons, because I do have the crayons handy. And I keep them in colour order. So it looks like this one, that's number 10. Number 20 is golden yellow, so it is there, number 20, golden yellow. And if you look, it's a bit warmer than just the number 10 yellow. So I've actually got, I haven't the full set, I've got about 100, but I've got a really nice selection of yellows. So I quite like the set that I've got. I'm quite impressed with that. And I keep them in my Derwent art bag. So they're all protected. I can see the colours and they're all in colour order. They're easy to pop out and they're easy to pop back in. And I just happen to have 4 sides of 2 sleeves and they work quite well. But be careful if you're popping them onto a page, because they are beautiful pure colour, and whatever they touch, the colour will come off. So I do put something on top if I'm messing about with them. If I have them on top of a colour page at one side, when I'm working on the other side, I will have a piece of photocopy paper or scrap paper. Oh, hi Kingo, welcome to Bunny's Designs. Yes, I'll try Melody. Melody says that she wants to know how to do the extra. If this is obviously a full page, going on a small rabbit trail. Joanna's Christmas. Oops. I love the book, but there is every page I do, there is a video. I'm pretty sure there's a video on these. So the original, and because I found it for £5, I bought it again. Because sometimes you look at something and think you would do it differently. So I put sparkles on the stag, stickles, clear stickles, and I didn't like the owl that I did. So this is what it originally looks like. And I loved it, and I love this paper, but I don't like the spare thing. And at this point, I didn't do any backgrounds. Now, I do a few more backgrounds now, but I didn't. So here, I decided to trace this bit, flip it over, and fill this space. But there is a video, and it's called How to Do Backgrounds. Melody. It's called How to Do Backgrounds, and it's all how to fill in backgrounds if you don't think there's enough. And I think the bunny page is another one. Just show this really quickly. But there is a video out there. This is another one that I didn't like the empty spaces. The only problem today, Melody, is I can't use the pen, so I won't be able to do it at the moment. Unfortunately, my hand's not brilliant, and you do need a fairly steady hand. I did the owl, but I wanted to show the... Again, my hand is really not happy. So that's the original, and I loved it, but it's, you know, you've got to do a background. So I just traced, because I couldn't copy Joanna's curls. My curls are different. I'm left-handed. My curls, to get her swirls that way, were pants. So I had to copy them, had to trace them, flipped them over, and filled the space. So they're all Joanna's curls. They are just traced and turned over. I didn't like the owl at all. So that was the other one with the birds. And again, I absolutely loved it, but didn't like the fact that all that space. So I just traced these and reversed them and filled the space in. And that's mine. And I actually bought the tracing paper from the children's section because I found it cheaper, and the Works in the UK has a slightly better quality to it, and it was half the price of adult tracing paper. But of course, something like this, you don't need to do that. I don't think there's any of these that you would want to really fill in. I don't think so. But you do need to kind of draw, and just at this moment, this is why I'm doing this today, because it's really simple, because my hand is really not a happy girl. So I'm going to zoom in and carry on if I can find my little 10-0 Graduate Daler Rowney liner, because it's a tiny space. I'm not really going for a watercolor effect because I'm going to be colouring in every brick. It's going to be a very fiddly, slow process today. So I shall just zoom in, and then I'll refocus it because I think we'll be. So I've started with these, and apologies for the that looks okay, I think, hopefully. So I like my little book because it can sit right next to me, and I do have dunking in a water pot and twisting to a point, just gently. So I've got a damp brush, and then I normally start in a corner, a little bit of colour, and just stroke the colour in. And I find if your hands don't work very well, it's a really soft way to work because all the bounce is in the brush. There's nothing, if you were doing it the other way, if you push down, that force would be forced on here. And I can't cope with that, so I find that just catching a bit of colour and stroking that in there. And these are small spaces, so it's, oopsie, sorry. Alfie's decided that he wants to sit on my feet. Now, I could go a little bit bigger. I could go to a 0.5 Art Master Pearl Series 55. And that's going to give me, it's just going to be a bit quicker. Oh, hi Kiki, welcome to Bunny's Designs. Anybody else that's popping in? I'm playing in my Colin Thompson colouring book, and I need something fairly easy and tranquil to do today because I've had rather a hectic evening. So I've been awake most of the night, so I needed something that's not too taxing and yet is quite therapeutic. And although this is a very busy page, it's not difficult because I'm going to use my Neocolor 2s scratched on the paper palette and a little brush. And it's a very simple, it's one of my easiest simple ways to work, and I like it because I can still be fairly creative, but I don't have to think about big shapes and messing about with different paintbrushes. I've got 3 different ones and that's about it. Now I'm going to go a bit bigger because I want to do the plant pot, and I have a terracotta. I've got a Venetian red, which, and again, I look here. This is why I use paper palettes. Is I have, for every square, I have 10 shades. So I've got almost 1,000 colours in here now. That's 10,000 shades. So I don't really need to carry anything around with me. But just in the Caran d'Ache, I've got about 100 and some, so that's 1,000 shades just in the Caran d'Ache. But I need to look here to say, is this the colour I want for my plant pot? If I want it paler, I will go in a space that I've used before. If I want the strongest colour, I'll go next to it and start another one. And this is how you work across. So the bottom one is English red. That's a very deep terracotta. I think I like the paler terracotta. So I'm just going to have a bit of a colour and start the darkest. Again, most of these colour books are quite easy to use because most of the work's been done. And because we've got this rigger, we have a watercolour effect, but it's dried now. And again, I like that I've got normally a tablespoon of water, so there's hardly anything to spill. And just manipulate that. And this is what I call watercolouring. So I invented this. It took me about 2 years to get the brushes right, which is why it works with a rigger. It won't work with a water brush, because the minute you touch a water brush, the colours whoosh out with all the water because it's designed to do that. But you get the best watercolour effects with a rigger. Now if you want to go darker, you can put a bit of a shadow in there if you want to. So you can either use the same terracotta or you can just go a touch darker, but I'm going to use the same colour. Now you can, in this particular book, you can do this a couple of times. In most colour books you can't because they don't like to be too wet. Most of the time one application is enough. any more going over it and you end up with a wet page. So I'm going to flick to my greens, and I kind of like dark green, number 210. Oops, we've got a big storm outside. So we have a chicken there. And again, most of the work's been done for you. Oopsie, that's the wrong one. 210. Now, I could look at a sunflower and get the exact green, but again, because it's a fantasy, I quite like the idea that I don't need to tax my brain. If I'm doing a Harry Potter page, I will copy and match the colours up, and it'll take me about an hour. I don't want that type of colouring today. So again, I like the fact that different colour books allow you to do different things. And this one is, you know, pick the green you want and go for it. You don't have to think, well, it's a sunflower green. But if I'm doing a different page, I will colour mix, and that takes sometimes about an hour. But I find this to be a very therapeutic way to work when you're not completely with it, but you do need to do a little bit of colouring. Like today, I'm too polished to do anything else. I started with flu, which is not the nicest thing on the planet, so but I do want to do a bit of something because I can't sit and do nothing. So this is a way to have a play. And these are small spaces, which again I find to be quite nice. So I'm going to pick a darker colour for the stem, I think. And do want a bit of a and I could have gone with a, I think most of my paintbrushes have seen better days because I've used them and used them and used them. And there is actually a little house in here, if you can see, there is a little house. And I nearly missed it, so if I brighten this up, it's going to make that little door pop. And there is a window as well. So I'm going to swap to my 10-0, I think. And this is 5-0 Art Master Pearl. And I haven't used this very much, so it's going to be quite precise, this brush. Again, I don't really want to go over things twice because the paper will not have it. It's just a colour book. It's not watercolour paper. And you have to think that. So, forgive me for not just reading chat for a second. I'm going to clean my little brush, and again I love the fact to clean the brush, absolutely no paint's wasted, and this is why I invented watercolouring. It's not traditional watercolouring on watercolour paper. It means that every scrap of paint I take from my paper palette ends up on my page, and as a tight Yorkshire lass I like that. It's not in my water pot and it's not on anywhere else, because the tiny bit of colour on the end gets all used up. So by the time you go to clean it, it's perfectly okay for the next colour. And I like that I'm not washing my colour out. If you are washing your brush out and your water is coloured, you are throwing away all your gorgeous colour, and there's no reason to do that. And you don't need a big pot of water. You can do it with I use a medicine top most of the time, a tablespoon of water. And children can do this. You know, if you have your Neos and they're too precious, scratch some little squares, give them to kids with a tablespoon of water, and they can spill a tablespoon of water. So, oh, hi Kiki, anybody else stopping in? Cheshire Cat, welcome to Bunny's Designs. And I do like these soft pale colours. You know, I have my moments when I can use bright colours for the Neos, but in my little book I've got the Peerless and I've got Inktense pencils. But this particular page, as I say, I want to work fairly soft. So I'll flick back to the yellows and I'm going to go back and put that little window in there, which is so diddy, but it is there. There is a little tiny window. And there's a door, and there's a door there. So what I'm going to do, and I did make a mistake, I think. I coloured in a window up there somewhere, but never mind. So I'm going to go to my cold browns, because the trees are here. So there's a lot of trees. I'm going to keep the trees in the warm browns, but I like the Dunkel Beige, which I think is just called beige now. And I'm just going to give that door a little bit of a brown. And the other thing is your colours last a long time because you don't use a lot of colour. So this could be metal. So again, I do have that gold and silver that I made. And I like that one, so I'm going for a slightly bigger brush. I think this time I shall go for my 20 Pearl Art Master Series 55, and I do like this this size. It's quite nice, and I've used quite a lot of this colour, so I'm going to use this for the top and the bottom, and that, because it's a bigger brush, it's allowing me to do a bigger space and manipulate more of a highlight. So I shall do ordinary gold around, and then I shall do the screws or bolts, whatever they are. I shall do those with silver, because the gold is going to give the impression that it's darker just by using a different colour. No shading, no nothing. So I've got the silver gold where the highlight would be, and I've got the ordinary gold where it would be naturally a little bit darker because it's an indent of the actual bar, metal bar. And then of course I can clean the brush, and there's nothing on there, and use my 50 for the silver and just touch those, and it's given quite a nice effect with little effort, and again I kind of like that. If I want to do the Harry Potter page and spend 10 hours on it, I can. If I want to spend a little time but have a nice effect, because it's still a really lovely book and I don't want to ruin it, but I want a nice effect, but I don't want the effort of scratching colour and messing about. I'm sorry, I don't, darling, no. Hi Dorothy, welcome to Bunny's Designs. Anybody else popping in? I'm just thinking, am I still in focus? Just bear with me 2 seconds. It's just a bit more difficult to get. I think it's because there's no colour in there. I don't think that should be so bad. Hopefully that's okay. I will look into that, Dorothy. As I said, with my daughter being poorly over the last few weeks, and she was poorly again during the night, so I'm not quite compos mentis today, which is why I'm doing the easy colouring today instead of what I really want to do. Is another Harry Potter page, but I really do not have the energy. But I will look into that. I will look into that. So I now have a sunflower. So I've got my golden. I think I'm going colder for my sunflower, and I'm going to use number 10, I think. Oh, canary yellow might be nice. Nope, I'm going to use just yellow, which is number 10. And again, I just want it to be kind of easy. So the top ones, I think I'm just going to do number 10, just yellow, in the Caran d'Agenais colour 2s. But I'm going to go a shade darker to golden cadmium for the under petals. And it's not much of a difference, but I think it'll show. And then I do have yellow, sorry, that was golden yellow. This is number 20. This is number 530, which nobody may have, because this is actually from my other bar, my Neo art bars. Sorry, dark alert, I apologise. Don't know what that was about. Actually, just going to finish that off there. Just to give that a little bit of difference. So, sorry about the bark alert. So we've done the green. Oh, the rain stopped. As I say, it's really cold in England, up north. At the moment, I've got 2 blankets on and I'm cold. But I just have started with a cold today. So I was thinking about grey. No, thank you, darling. I was thinking about grey because I have some cold greys and some warm greys. So the little cottages, I'm going to do red brick, I think. And the other ones, I think cold grey. And then we obviously have a balloon here. I've just seen a caterpillar. Oh, and I've left some leaves off the top there, so I'll go back to the greens. And I will just go back to the greens. And that's maybe a little bit brighter, but I'm sure it'll be fine. If at a later stage I want to go over that, I can do. I don't have to worry about it. But just at the moment, I don't really want to go over that, although it is dry. I think I changed greens halfway through. Now that is a little bit wetter than I'd want, but I'm not doing the watercolor effect today. I'm just colouring for therapy today because I've had rather a difficult evening. Oh dear, excuse me, I've had 2 pots of coffee this morning. And coffee doesn't agree with me, but it keeps me awake. So I quite like that. And then we're going to have to kind of soften that down. So I'm going to go to the browns again. If you could find my phone, darling, that would be wonderful. Thank you. And we've got a sienna brown, which is is quite of a nutty brown. So I think I'm just going to go onto there. Just bear with me just 2 seconds. I've just got to, it's going to be a fractious day today. Let me move that out of the way. Oh, bye Dorothy, thank you for stopping by. I will look into that, I promise. So move that across. And then I'm just going to give that, it's a colder brown, but it's almost like a pewter colour. So, and then I think we can have quite a kind of look at the greens. Oh, I've got an olive. I don't really want to. I've got a light oxide, chromium oxide. I can't read my own writing. It's number 212. And it's a strange green, but I think it might be a nice caterpillar green. He's done now. I would think we possibly want some blue sky. And again, what I do is I look at the blue, but I don't look here, I look here. So sky is going to be about here. And that's not a bad one. That's the cobalt dark. It's not blue, it's too blue. So I'm going back to the blues. So I've got purpley blues. Now there is a periwinkle blue which I kind of like, but it's not there. Sapphire blue. This is quite a nice sky blue, sapphire blue. So I'm going to go for that, which is number 150, sapphire blue. And if I start dark at the top, now I've done this once before and it was too bright, so I've got to kind of keep my paintbrush moving about a bit, but obviously not too much because it's going to be a midnight sky then, because it's gone a little bit dark, like it's unless it's a moody grey day. It was kind of a bit of a, and normally these neos will move quite nicely, so we can just eke out that a bit. So it's becoming, and again I'm actually going over it, which I shouldn't really do because it doesn't really like it. It's not so bad, but it doesn't really like it, so if I want to play in there anymore, I've got to kind of leave that alone. But it's dried. Oh, hi, Bookworm. Anybody else popping in? Welcome to Bunny's Designs. Just having a play in my Colin Thompson book. So I'm going to pick out these 4 doors. Again, I did like that really nice sepia brown. It's a 402, and it's, sorry, I tell a lie. It's 405, and mine's called Dunkel Beige, but actually I think it's normally called either chocolate or it's called just beige now, I think. But it's I don't think the numbers change, which is 405, and I'm going to start at the top and work down, and that would give me a little bit of a watercolor effect. As I say, unfortunately today I'm in my I just want to do this for relaxation, so there's no thinking about shadows really, but I can get a bit of a watercolor effect. Now one thing you do have to do is you have to dunk and you have to dry. With my watercoloring, that, as I say, it took me 2 years to get it to this, is you need the baby wipe to take off the water, because if you dunk this in water and then take your colour off, you're just going to get tons of colour. You're not going to get this soft watercolour effect. But I like to think you can do that in just one quick motion. So, and again, no colour wasted. So then I can go back to my bright yellow, and there aren't many ways you can go from darkish brown to a pale lemon. Did I use yellow? I think I used golden number 20 for my windows. And I think that is a window. Now that looks like to be sky, but this is going to be yellow here. So while I'm here, I'm just going to put that in, and I might actually drag that down to warm that up as well. So we've got the light and the shadow. Going through there. I don't think that's a window, but I suppose it could be. But I think that might be blue sky. So I'm going to go back. And I don't really like that blue, but I started it, so we'll stay with it. Which was the sapphire blue. And we'll just manipulate that. And then, of course, you've got absolutely nothing left on your brush. Slide that across very carefully. I think I'm going to do this the same as well, so there's a bit of continuity. Now, if I'd have photocopied this first, I wouldn't have made that mistake with the sky, because I did that when I very first did this book. And you have to clean your brush every time, because you've got to have a damp rigger. Again, this is watercolouring with a damp rigger, which is a tablespoon of water. And that's when you get that gorgeous soft. Now, it works better with watercolour pencils. They're a bit more responsive than these, but it's fine. I wanted to play with the Caran d'Ache, so we could get some of those bricks in now. There's another little kind of wooden shed. So we look at the browns, and I think that can be a bit warmer. Number 36, I think, and we start up there. And again, you don't have to think too much about watercolouring a highlight, because it's a grayscale. So most of the work's been done. And this sky is obviously going to be the same, so I've got to go back into that. Might try a bigger brush. Sometimes it works with a slightly bigger brush. It's a bigger area, so this is how you know a smaller brush is a smaller area. So this one is a number 0. And I'll flick to the blues and use my 150 Sapphire. And I kind of like the fact that you can start quite strong. And it's almost like a midnight sky or a dusk sky, so that's quite good. I should practice what I preach and rework my paintbrush. It's a bit of an odd blue, is this, I have to say, but there we go. And I can go back and play later, but I don't want to touch that now. There's another brown door, so we can go a shade darker to a number 45, which is just brown. And I think we can do that just brown. So we've changed that very slightly from the very soft ones to darker ones. Now we have this kind of building here. I'm just going to put, again, I'm just going to put that across. And it's going to be fairly quick today because it works really well. I need to put all these yellow lights in. So go back to our number 20, I think it was. Golden yellow, which was number 20. And very easily just bob those in there. Not sure if oh, there's a window, so we'll give that a little bit of oomph. And I think this one could have some as well. And I think we're going to do these doors. That's a window. Because they're obviously glass or see-through. So it's coming along as that little section. I'm not sure what to do about the balloon, so if I'm sometimes not sure, I leave it. And I am going to do this colour here though. So this is going to be a kind of a warm grey. So I'm going to have a look at the greys. And I think I want something warmer, so I'm going to go with a I'm actually going to go with a salmon pink, I think 51. Or just, no, salmon 51. So if we start down here, a nice little colour, is that? I'm going to go for the bigger brush. Am I on the bigger brush? No, need a bigger brush because it's a bigger space. In fact, I think I'm going to go with a number 3 Daler Rowney rigger because it's going to give me a really nice flow. So 51 is salmon, and that gives a really better flow. So you can have a really nice effect, and you're not touching it so many times. And because of the grayscale, you wouldn't really think that was a salmon colour, but and I really should revisit. Oopsie, I need to revisit my damp brush every time. And really not wet the page too much, even though it's a fantastic thickness is this. So again, we can do this. So I'm hoping to move my studio soon. Oh, please shut the door, darling, it's drafty. And he can get upstairs. Alright, okay, sorry. Sorry, I didn't realise you were there. Thank you. So, oops, that was a little bit wet, but this paper can just about take that because this brush is bigger. But I really like that colour. I think it's nice. It's almost dry. The brush got a little bit damp, but did absolutely nothing to the other side whatsoever. So that was quite good. And it's dried, so it really wasn't, it looked wetter than it was. So I've been going about 50 minutes, so I'm just going to zoom out a bit and you can see that it's an easy way to work. You can see, oops, you can see I've got my colours that I'm just flicking here, my Caran d'Ache colour 2s, so I don't have to mess about with a crayon. I've got a scale here of 10 shades for each square. I've got dunking the brush, twisting to a point, getting the colour and colouring so my arm isn't moving too much. And sometimes if you're not very mobile, that's quite nice. It's a little triangle. And then on this side I have my paintbrushes set out. Now normally I would put them on the left, but because I was messing about with the camera angle and I have to move the book when I'm zoomed in, these would tinkle all the time and get on my nerves. So I really like this way of working. It's fairly quick. It's not a complicated section. It's just busy. It's what I call busy. So I'm going to call that the end of part 1. And I'm going to do some brick reds and this section, I think, maybe follow that down in a natural progression. Because sometimes if you start some brickwork and then you go away and you come back, you use it differently. Even though you've got the same brush and the same everything else, it is different. So sometimes it's a good idea to get a full section done in the same colour. So that's what I intend to do. Oh, hi Claudia, welcome to Bunny's Designs. So I talked earlier before I started to record about my girls drawing better than me. And Samantha was drawing these with a pen. So she did these little miniatures for Grandma. So she did the bridge at Filey, she did, I'm not sure where that one is. I think that might be Filey. That might be Filey Church. And then she actually comes from Godmanchester, so they went there and she took some photographs. Sorry about the lights. So I wanted to show that she really does love sketching. And then my other daughter did this from a photograph. And these two sisters hadn't seen each other for 16 years, I think. 16, 20 odd years had not spoken. So they were nattering away, and the cat sat on their knees. And then she did it as a line drawing, and then she coloured it. So it's a really fantastic. I don't think I got a picture of it before she did it. Let me just see if I did. I thought I had. No, I didn't get a picture of it before she coloured it. But I think she coloured it digitally, so that should be okay. So I've asked them to sit here and just draw with the camera rolling, and then I can just fast forward it, and then you can see how she copies from photographs. And she just sits and does it while she watches TV. She puts me to shame. She puts me to shame, but she's poorly at the moment again, unfortunately. So I just wanted to share those with you. But that did inspire me, I have to say. It did inspire me to draw some butterflies. Not very well, because I am so out of practice. And I did them in the car. So I just sketched a few butterflies, and I thought I might try and do some colour sketching. So draw some colours, draw some things, and then sketch them. But I want to put some buddleias with them. I'm going to put some buddleias with them, but they're just in pencil drawings. But I am trying to get back into drawing, but it's not working particularly well, I have to say. But you know, it proves that you can learn to draw, hopefully, again. So I'm going to say that's the end of part one of Fantastique, Colin Thompson's book, with Neocolor 2s, which are in my little book of colours. So thanks for watching. Oopsie.